Your hand is in the air, not waving, not reaching for anything. Index finger up, making a point, to the kitchen wall. At midnight. Probably in your socks. Full constructed sentences, a claim, then a counterclaim, then a rebuttal that surprised even you. You built a case, tore it apart, came back harder with the second argument, and somewhere in the middle of all that you figured something out, something that 3 days of sitting quietly with this problem never produced. Then you noticed the hand. And the thought that followed was small and very familiar. Am I okay? Yes, more than okay. And here's what's actually happening inside that mind of yours. There is a story the world tells about people who talk to themselves. The story is not flattering. It uses this habit as quick shorthand for someone who has lost the thread. Something missing, something slightly gone. That story is wrong. Not slightly wrong. Foundationally, completely, demonstrably wrong. And if you've spent years doing this quietly, in cars, in showers, in kitchens at midnight, feeling like it was a habit you should mention to no one, this is the correction you were owed a long time ago. Here's what's actually happening. When a thought stays inside your head, it takes shortcuts. The brain already knows what it wants to conclude. So it quietly fills the gaps, skips the hard middle, lets the unfinished logic go unexamined. But the moment you say it out loud, something changes structurally. You have to finish it. You can't skip. You have to build the sentence all the way to its end. And in that completion, the missing piece becomes audible. That's why the shower debate solves what 3 days of silence couldn't. The voice isn't describing the thinking. It is the thinking. You're not narrating a conclusion. You're manufacturing one by speaking it. Researchers studying verbal externalization found that speaking a thought aloud forces cognitive commitment that internal processing never requires. Ambiguity collapses. Half-formed reasoning can no longer stay half-formed. You were in the best possible conditions for the kind of mind you have. Now here's where it gets more specific. The people who do this most aren't running one voice. They're running something closer to a parliament. One voice that's practical. One that's idealistic. One that sounds exactly like your most skeptical family member and won't let anything through without a fight. One that's braver than all the others, tends to show up last after the other voices have worn each other down. Someone described this once. They said, "I talk to myself like I'm two people in one body. Sometimes random topics, sometimes full debates." That's not fragmentation. That's a mind stress testing its own conclusions before trusting them. The intellectual rigor that nobody else ever gave you a proper venue for. So you built the venue yourself. You're not monologuing. You're chairing a meeting. Everyone in the room is you, which means no one is sparing anyone's feelings, which means the thinking actually has to stand on its own. Someone wrote this once, and it spread the way things spread when they say exactly the right thing. "I talk to myself because I like talking to intelligent people." Thousands of people read that and didn't laugh. They went quiet. Because that sentence said in 11 words what they'd been carrying, unspoken, for years. Now, the part this topic deserves a moment of honesty about. If you have ever been mid-parliament, genuinely prosecuting both sides of a major life decision, hand extended, voice fully committed, and someone walked into the room, and you had approximately 0.3 seconds to transform from a person arguing a fully developed case against themselves into a person who was very clearly just standing in the kitchen looking for a glass of water, you know exactly what this is. A private podcast. No recording, no audience. 5 stars from yourself, every single episode. Here's what all of this adds up to. The person who holds these conversations, both sides, fully committed, out loud in empty rooms, is not failing at connection. They're succeeding at a harder kind of it. One where honesty is safe because there's no one to use it against you. Where the thought gets to go all the way through without anyone flattening it into a manageable headline. Most conversations outside your head don't allow that. Inside your head, the third layer is always available. I am my own best conversational partner. That's not arrogance. That's the conclusion someone arrives at after years of looking for the conversation elsewhere and finding the landscape thin. Some people stop waiting. They build the conversation themselves. Both sides. Full sentences. Hand in the air if that's where the argument goes. That is not a coping mechanism. That is not loneliness with extra steps. That is the quietest, most consistently underestimated kind of intelligence there is. You don't talk to yourself because no one is listening. You don't talk to yourself because no one is listening. You talk to yourself because you are the only one who will always follow the thought all the way to the end. Drop the last thing you solved by talking it through in the comments. Just the topic. I want to see what this particular kind of mind has been working on.